Okay, so welcome. Thank you for being here. Right now I have everybody muted because we are going to record the event. It is going to be interactive. So if you don't already, I'm going to invite you to get something to write with and have something to write on, because there will be some pieces that you're going to do more of a kind of quiet reflection or sharing in the chat a little bit, especially towards the beginning, and then we will open it up a little bit more. When we open it up, my plan is to stop the recording just so that we can have any of our personal shares private. And so just so you know a little bit about what to expect, I'm going to go through and share some information with you, and we'll go through some of the interactive activities in sort of a private way. And then we'll be opening it up to shares, and we'll be moving into the activation energy work and questions and just kind of go from there. So let me know, feel free to reach out in the chat if you need anything, or you should have access to unmute yourself if you do need to, but just so you know, that's kind of where we are. So welcome. It's amazing to have you all here and to be connecting with you today. I'm so excited to bring this event to you. This is our very first connection event through Active Exchange, and it's something that has been in the works and in the brainstorm for some time. So today, Thursday, January 20th, we're going to be honing in and bringing the energy and the focus around this idea of sparking the fire within, right? Sort of captivating that strength and the power of the milestone energies that are here, that are generally quite palpable. I mean, everybody's on their own individual experience, but particularly this month, and how to continue keep that spark alive throughout the year. So most of you here know me. My name is Becca Marshall. I'm the founder of Active Exchange, and I'm an integrative practitioner. So I bring together in my practice, which many of you have had the opportunity to experience in different ways, a variety of different skills and tools, and we'll be using some of those tonight, tapping into some energy medicine, doing a little bit of intentional work, and really turning toward the self, feeling into the body mind, and identifying how we can make this work our own. And so I invite you to receive that right here as we start, that whatever is offered and available tonight, I invite you to make it your own. And I'm excited to be sharing this with you. So since everybody's on mute, I would love to have you, if you have access, to share your name in the chat, perhaps share where you are, just so we can kind of anchor everybody. You might be able to see each other's names even on here already. And then just that little plug to sort of have something to write on. If you have a candle and you'd like to light a candle, definitely harnessing the energies there, especially since we're working with the spark and keeping that spark going all year. So we're just going to dive right in. Milestone energies and events. We're probably all familiar with this term, milestone energies, milestone events. These are significant events in our life that often mark the start of a new chapter. What comes up for you when you think of milestone events? And particularly, I invite you to think about times in your life, because, well, let me just let you kind of marinate on that a little bit. And if you do want to put some of these in the chat, just love to hear, we've got, as I mentioned, like the new year. right? Here is sort of a big milestone marker in general. And this is pretty global, right? Everybody celebrates the start of the new year. We might have it a little bit at different times, the Chinese New Year and other things, but really when it comes to the calendar new year, it's a pretty global experience. Any other milestone events in your lives? We've got some little pictures, yeah, changing careers, moving, right? Like graduating. This could be an 8th grade graduation, high school, college, having babies. Absolutely. Absolutely. This milestone marker, I don't know if any of you have driven down to Key West, but I have made that drive many times. And one of the things that I love about it is you like the mile markers on the way down. Literally, for some reason, it stands out to me more than other trips because you get down to 0. And so it the significance that holds, the countdown, when is the baby coming? When is the move happening? The changing of careers, there's all of this stuff around it. And then it's sort of like all of a sudden it's here. Birthdays. Yeah, absolutely. In its literal meaning, a milestone is a roadside marker, right? Listing, like I mentioned, those mile markers on the way down to the southernmost point of Key West, listing the distance from where we are to a particular location. And in so many ways, as we talk tonight about harnessing these milestone energies, in a way, it's like that. How can we tap in these mile markers, in a sense, to into our own life that continue to encourage us, that continue to give us feedback, that continue to sort of fuel or stoke the flames of our fire throughout the year, or however long it is. I'm saying the year, but it doesn't have to be, exactly what we want for this year. There could be other things that come up for you. So talking a bit more about the milestone energies specifically, and talking about this new year, just consider for you how it feels as we approached the start of January, as we move through, right, to that New Year's Eve, into New Year's Day. And here we are 20 days later, this milestone marker of a brand new year. For many people, it is a period of reflection, of review, considering, what do I want for myself? What do I want for myself this year? And this is some of that energy in a milestone event, whether it's a birthday or babies or moving, any of these things that we've mentioned tonight, and perhaps even others that haven't been mentioned. It's this piece of really kind of coming into a bird's eye view, considering what's here and considering where we want to go from here. This fresh start, blank slate, right? These intentions. Very common for us during these times to consider who have we been? Where do we want to go? And so let's just all take a breath tonight as we kind of harness this milestone energy. And so if it's comfortable for you, and if you have the time and space, maybe even closing your eyes for a moment, and perhaps even bringing the hands to the body, maybe over the heart or over the abdomen, and just taking a moment, taking a breath in, and gently exhaling, feeling into the groundedness of self here. Let's do that a couple more times. Full breath in, opening to receive. And gently exhaling, releasing. One more time, full breath. just as much as the body will allow. And this breath opening to anything and everything that's here for you this evening, just taking a moment, checking in with what's here right now. Any sensations, emotions, thoughts. And on the next exhale, just inviting anything that's here that wants to be loosened or softened or to ground right here in to do so. And feeling into this idea that we're gathering around tonight, harnessing the milestone energies and taking a moment to consider this January, this milestone marker of the new year for you. And inviting a breath. Gently opening the eyes if they're closed. Oftentimes, the key to what makes a milestone feel different than other moments is this opportunity for a fresh start. There's something palpable in these moments of reflection, in these moments of review. And it is like having a blank slate. What do we want to write on it this time? In that, the energy is strong. There is this sense of catalyst. It's like, oh my gosh, we get to start something, right? Triggered, lighting, sparking the flame, really having that spark. And so before we, I will go here for a moment. So oftentimes, and this isn't the case with everyone, but oftentimes, and if you're here tonight, you probably even read this in like the introduction of the event. But what tends to happen as time moves forward is that sometimes the strength of those energies, the spark, the fire, the let's go get them, the momentum, the motivation can fade. It was very interesting just even preparing for tonight and looking into some of the statistics, which I feel like, many of us know quite well, that a good percentage of people, when it comes to like a New Year's resolution, but it doesn't have to be just that, don't end up making it through the long haul. Now, that's not everybody, and we're not planting that seed tonight. But I mention that because I think it's an important consideration. How do we set ourselves up to stay true to the intention, to continue to check in with our sense of alignment with what we set at the beginning for ourselves, and how do we continue to stoke that fire to ensure that we can get to where we want to go? About 80 to 90% of people stop showing up to their commitments, and their intentions fall to the wayside. When this happens, so many things happen, right? And one piece that's I feel is super important is that disappointment can set in. Sometimes, this can go to harsh criticism. Sometimes this can feel a little bit lighter. We just shrug it off. But overall, what is happening is that it's impacting our trust in ourselves. When we say to ourselves, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm going to go. And we might get started and we're moving along. And, it's funny. It is something like by day 20, like 43% of people, fall off. And that means that whatever the percent is by day 15, right? Or by day 10. And then where are we when it comes to using the New Year's example, February 3rd, right? So, but I find this fascinating. I never, this is kind of a new way of viewing this, and really even a new insight for me of how the things that I haven't followed through with, the things that I've said, yes, I really want to go for that, or I really want to do that, how ultimately it has eroded my own trust in myself. And then what are the ripple effects of that? What is my likelihood to set an intention again, to show up to that plate again? And I think that there's a way that can become depleting. So if there's anything coming up for anybody here and you feel like you want to share, or if you've had that experience, maybe disappointment wasn't your experience, maybe there's another word that describes for you. So if there's anything that you want to share, please feel free to share that in the chat. And if it feels just more personal, but maybe you want to honor it or acknowledge it for your own experience, I encourage you to use your paper, use your pen, and just take a moment, jot down, if you've ever had this experience, what it might have felt like to you. And then we're just going to take a cleansing breath. And so let's just take a full breath in and gently releasing. So we want to, I want to honor and acknowledge this and invite everybody to today and anybody who's watching this in the future, and yet to know that this isn't where we're getting stuck. Tonight is about really looking at the tools that are going to keep us going. So learning to harness these milestone energies in the face of our normal human imperfections, right? Days, sometimes we wake up on the right side of the bed. Sometimes we wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Sometimes we receive a phone call and the whole world changes. So, things are shifting all the time. The one constant that we can rely on is change. And, our own kind of, so I use that word imperfections in the broadest sense. Maybe it even means like plans that didn't go exactly as expected. But for all of those things, and I think we all can relate to this on some level, it's absolutely necessary to, have some tools, have some skills, and really, consider if they might work for us to bring into our life so that we can make it through from that starting point, through the long haul. And I love this picture, and because I feel like it speaks to that, right? It speaks to like, this is a journey. This is our path. Here's the road. And if there's one thing that I invite you to take home tonight, it's this idea that perhaps every day is a fresh start. Perhaps every day, or every moment, sometimes every hour. It really depends on where we are in our life and at the time of like where we need that start to be. Sometimes it needs to be much more frequently, and sometimes we can spread it out and check in a little bit with a little bit more distance. But that really every opportunity is the moment, is the start. So how do we continue to show up to the intentions we've set for ourselves when the commitment required takes continued cultivation of energy and of momentum? So just taking a moment, I want to acknowledge, where everybody here has been. I have the privilege of knowing you and knowing that everybody here is an incredible person and has really, carved a path for themselves and continued to show up to it. So I just want to take a moment and invite you to acknowledge that. If there are any words or phrases that come up that you want to put down for yourself, of what it has taken for you, perhaps what has supported you in continuing to cultivate this energy, this momentum around an intention. And so let's just take a breath with that. Okay. Beautiful. So welcome. I am just looking if you know how to mute yourself. So right now we are just working with the video. So we do have the evening is being recorded. So just so you know, I don't see the mute. So if you want to mute yourself or you can, then go for it. But otherwise I can't hear anything coming through anyways. So just wanted to let you know that. We are using the chat. And also the invitation, if you have the chance to have something to write with and something to write on. So thank you. Yeah, so someone shared radical acceptance. Right? Radical acceptance has supported them in showing up for themselves with that continued cultivation, energy, and momentum. I don't know if anybody here has read the book Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach. Very powerful read. So, all right. So we're going to review, one of the things that I shared with all of you is that tonight we'll be taking home, kind of 3 tools that we can use. There we go. So, all right. Thank you for your patience. Okay, and so we're going to move into those. So I'm first going to do a review of what we're going to then spend a little bit more time with together this evening. So the first piece is, and I've said this word a number of times tonight, but intention setting, recognizing where it is you're intending to go. What are we reaching for? Who do you want to be? And tonight I'm going to invite everybody who is here to, and we're going to do this together. So I'm just going to kind of breeze through this right now, but we're going to put these things into action in real time. So that's part of the interactive piece. But that's number 1. Recognize where it is that you're intending to go. The second piece is establishing what I call a living container. This container is going to hold the space. It's going to create the structure for all of the ways that you're inspired to grow. Okay. And last but not least, routine reflection, reviewing, and redefining every step that we take, right? So if you go back to that previous slide where it was like, here's the road and it says start, right? It's like every step we take, every quarter mile, every mile opens us up to more clarity. If we're willing to show up to the invitation, we have to make the time. We've got to invite the pause, and we've got to be open to seeing. But if we can bring those pieces in, taking the time, taking the pause, opening ourselves to seeing with routine, allowing this review, allowing ourselves to perhaps even redefine, then we are going to be better apt to stoke those flames over the long haul. So let's move into a practice together. I want to invite you to consider a personally powerful mind. These are long words. A personally powerful milestone event. Something for you. Right. I was talking about the new year and January and, something that we can all relate to on some level. But I invite you now to think of something in your life that has been a milestone event for you. I can think of different moments for me, some big, some more like small, or maybe not your typical, you know, moment, but that were still milestone events. They were still moments where I was able to move into that bird's eye view. I was in deep reflection. I was considering, who am I? Where do I want to go? And, or, what is it I'm trying to do with my life? What do I want to activate? So this could be professional. This could be personal, whatever comes up for you. Right? It's these moments where it's like we step into a new version of self. And if for any reason something doesn't come to mind, perhaps imagine that today is the day. Maybe this conversation or this event could be, deciding to be here, deciding to show up, could be that milestone event for you. And either way, you get to create this right now. So with that piece, we were talking about any that have happened in your life. And as we move here, I want you to consider something that an intention that you would like to set today. Right? So we've kind of considered milestone events in general and milestone energies, the ways that these support us, what can happen in terms of kind of those losing their spark or losing their steam. And tonight is about really harnessing that. And how do we keep on? How do we keep going so that we can get sort of to the end? And so taking a moment, select or highlight a particular intention that you have had that you wish to cultivate. Maybe it's something that, you're already in the process of working on. And just jot it down, whatever comes to the top of your mind. Maybe it's one thing, maybe it's two things. I am going to invite you to kind of hone it down to one for the practices tonight, but you can put down as many as you want. This can be something very specific. Right? I want to increase the amount of movement in my life, or I want to start to go to the gym 4 times a week. Or it could be something more broad, like I want to engage life with greater awareness. I want to become more mindful in my day-to-day living. And so just taking a moment there. And if it is comfortable for you, just inviting the eyes to close for a moment, whether something's come up for you or it hasn't. And feeling into the body here and now. If it feels uncomfortable to close the eyes, perhaps just lowering the gaze or finding a point of focus. And just feeling into this energy, perhaps opening to whatever might be wanting to show itself to you or whatever is already here. And so wherever you are with this, inviting a breath and selecting one, whatever feels best for you. And just jotting that down if you haven't already, just to sort of declare that in the field, in the room. And from this space, if the eyes have opened up again, we're going to do a little activity. So I'm going to invite you again to just kind of close the eyes or lower the gaze. And together, we're going to fast forward in time. So perhaps bringing the hands to the body, the heart, the abdomen, resting them in the lap, whatever feels most comfortable for you. Allowing the whole self to ground in just a little bit deeper, a little bit more. Imagine that the container that we have created here tonight is holding you, feeling gravity rooting you, grounding you here into this moment. Inviting a breath. And just imagine following the guidance of these words. Imagine that we could fast forward in time. We're going to move together tonight into that space in the future. Imagine in this space that you have reached the fullness of the intention that you're holding space for tonight. Whatever you claimed this evening, whatever you wrote down, it's happening. It's happened. It is a part of your life now. Inviting a full breath in. And as you exhale, grounding into this energy, this place into the future, this feeling, what has come to fruition. And noticing how this feels in your body. Noticing how this feels in your mind. Breathing. What do you see? What's around you? What do you smell? What are the scents in the air? What does it feel like in your body to be here? Notice if there's anything to touch around you, whatever's here. And taking a breath, just imagining the self that showed up here tonight, meeting this version of self in the future. And sort of handing over an emblem of accomplishment, a golden sort of award and recognition of your strength, your diligence, the endurance, an acknowledgement of your efforts. Whatever it is, personal, professional, spiritual, physical, whatever it is that's been attained, just noticing and inviting a breath. Grounding into this energy, feeling into the fullness of these sensations. And exhaling. And so just taking a moment and on your paper or, wherever it is that you have space to record, just jotting down what showed up for you, noticing any textures, noticing any ideas, anything that came through, scents, smells. What was it like for you in this space moving into the future in time? And as you capture this, staying in tune with the breath. And whenever it feels complete, there's no rush. I'm just inviting a full breath and sort of anchoring in whatever was here or was there in those moments for you. If there's anything that you want to share about your experience or the textures, feel free to put that in the chat. And if not, you can keep that close. And so together we'll just take a breath. One of the keys to anchoring the intention rests in the why. Why, whatever the intention is that you're working with tonight, what is your why? Why is this important to you? As you consider where it is you'd like to go in this sense, take a few moments now and reflect on these whys. Why do you want this? What will the impact of this, what will be the impact of this result? How might it influence your life, the lives of others? And so just feeling into that for a moment. And here on the slide, you'll see the top of this tree. And the top of the tree, in a sense, is like that canopy, right? Sort of protecting our idea and protecting the why. And I feel like it also represents the roots, right? What are we rooting into? Imagining the roots of this incredible large tree and how far they stem. This is the why. And that trunk and the branches and the leaves blooming the intentions. Just taking a breath, taking your time. And we're going to move into this next piece, but knowing any of this, if there's more, you can come back to, or you can even kind of stay with. So the next piece that we talked about is establishing a living container. Right? The container is how we hold the intention. It's how we honor the why. It's ultimately the structure or the guideline for how we want to show up. As I was creating these slides and preparing for this evening, I was typing this and I sort of accidentally typed, establish your loving container. And then I thought, oh gosh, that's really beautiful. And I think that really is a part of this. So just to break this down a little bit, the living or loving container, right? When we think of like a living document, right? It's sort of as needed. It can adapt, it can evolve, it can change. When we're working with intentions, when we're working on envisioning where we're going, who we want to become, what we'd like to bring into our lives or accomplish in a sense, it's like we talked about in every step we take, we get a little bit more clarity. So we might make a decision and move into something and then start to see it with a little more clarity. And so being open, right? Being open to be flexible, to allow it to evolve, while also in this container, while also holding that structure so that it's not a like, oh, push it to the side, I quit. It got too hard or it got too challenging. So there's sort of a dance here in this idea of it being a living container, a loving container, the attitude, the approach. And we're going to talk more about that. And the container itself, right? Containers, they hold, they carry, they allow us to transport different materials, different objects, different ideas. And so we're going to bring this in, and I invite each of you to imagine sort of bringing in a container for your intention tonight. And just to sort of holding some space for like, where do these sparks for our intentions even come from? Right? That space of creativity the idea, the desire, like where that catalyst or that spark comes from. I don't know what you would say, and we will have some time to perhaps discuss, but maybe the heart, right? And so if that is the case, if it comes from the heart, if it comes from our core, if it comes from somewhere within, really guiding us to where we want to go, then this like loving, the living, loving idea, you know, how do we want to keep that? How do we want to treat that, intend to it, considering where it came from? So diving in just a little bit more into this container, this idea, I have it broken down into 3 pieces. And I don't know if that's large enough for you to see, probably depends on your screen. But these 3 pieces, the internal space, if you look at these little containers, right, it's like that space inside that's holding each of these little greens. If you look at the outdoor scene and the fencing, it's like that space inside, whatever they're sort of containing in the fence. There's the physical structure, the glass container or jar, or that fencing. That is the physical structure. And then there's the external space. How are we in relationship with the environment around? And so if you're cool with it, if you're open to it, on your in your own little journal or personal piece of paper, play with just jotting down or like doodling a little image of a container, whatever that might be for you. And when you put that down, I want to invite you to draw your little container. However that is, doesn't have to be fancy, can be as fancy as you want it to be. So I have my little sketch of a container here. And you're gonna eventually put 3 arrows. And you know, you can expand on this. So however it shows up on your paper is perfectly fine. But there's an arrow that's gonna represent that internal environment, the internal space. And we're just going to pause here for a moment, right? This is, if you think about us on the inside, this is where the intention is coming from. This is where we're holding it. So what is our mindset around it? What are the perspectives that we're holding? This might be in our self-talk. This might be in the felt sense. In my internal environment, when I think about my intentions for this year and I really hone in, this might be different for everybody here, but I feel excitement. I feel lightness in my body. I feel energy moving. What is important to you around your intention to bring into your internal space? Is there a mindset or a perspective that would support you? Is there an affirmation or a self-talk? You know, how do you want to talk to yourself around this? So just taking a moment there. And then adding another arrow, and this one, and I don't want to rush anybody. Again, you can kind of go back to this, but just so that we can, you know, get everything in. I'm just going to move a little bit quickly through this, but bringing an arrow to that next piece, the physical structure. So this is sort of like the edge of the container, right? So I don't know if you can see my arrows, but I've got one to the internal and one just here to the edge. This is that physical structure. This holds the boundary. It protects the cultivation. It's the structure. What are the actions that we need to take? Maybe this has to do with the time of day we get up. Maybe this has to do with the habits that we're bringing into our day? What do we need to bring into our structure to ensure that we're showing up in cultivating this intention? And so just jotting down whatever comes up for you, this idea. And then last but not least, and maybe my arrow is going a little bit in the wrong direction here, but I've got my third arrow down here, might be tough to see, but that is the external space. It's the space around the container. And maybe I'll even like kind of draw, right, a little piece around the container. This is the environment around us. It does influence us, and we influence it. These are the outside surroundings. Maybe it's the people we're coming into contact with, the places we're going, things, belongings, materials in our lives. What's the messaging? Are we exposing ourselves to the news? What's the messaging there? What is it, right? So the external space is what we come into contact with. And some of this is within our control and some of it isn't. And that's okay. But bringing this into our conscious awareness, sort of, really considering with this intention, if I'm cultivating the container, what is going to help and allow me to sort of do this to the best of my ability? What is going to really support the cultivation of this intention? And part of that is in the cultivation of the container. This is where the intention is housed within. And so they're directly related. And in some senses, it's like one and the same. And so that next piece, this routine reflection, routine. Right. And this is really where we come into that stoking of the fire, right? This is like a daily tending. It's like washing our laundry or brushing our teeth. We have this intention that came from somewhere within, perhaps from the heart. And how do we show up to it? How do we tend to it? How do we care for it? Every step we take, we open to more clarity. And let's see here. If I can share, I want to share. Excuse me one moment. I have apparently, here we go. So I'm going to share this with each of you tonight. So you will get this as well. But here is a suggestion from tonight's workshop around the daily routine, and having this like daily, a routine reflection, a review, right? This opportunity to redefine. So don't worry about writing all of these down. I will make sure that you get this tonight. But there's a recommendation or, food for consideration about how we bring this in regularly. And part of it is having an evening reflection, right? These are sort of like bookends, right? So at the end of the day, maybe even today, right? We're here, we're meeting, it's the evening. And, did I show up in alignment with my intentions today? And this doesn't have to be a paragraph. This doesn't have to be a book. A simple yes or no. Did I show up in alignment? Yes or no? If I didn't, what thought, rationalization, what experience, like basically what was the obstacle? What prevented me from doing so? Same thing. This can be one word. This could be a sentence. The intention, the intention behind this is not that it absorbs a bulk of our time. If you want it to, or if it needs to, go for it. But this is meant to be, right, like brushing our teeth, right? Something that we can do, something that we can bring in. And then the morning review. So this is sort of like starting every day, going through these questions, considering the intention, And this is one that I absolutely love, right? What do I choose to let go of or forgive myself for from yesterday? So going back to what I mentioned before when we looked at that image, right? The picture of the road and where it said start. Stoking the fire within is about opening ourselves to that blank slate, opening ourselves to that fresh start each and every day. And in order to do that, it's important to release anything that we're holding on to, blockages, resentments, disappointments, things that have been there, so that we can perhaps acknowledge and step through, not allowing that to keep us back or to invite us to get discouraged or to fall off. So I'm just going to go through these, and then we're going to shift gears into the energy activation. So what do I choose to let go of from yesterday or to forgive myself for? What do I choose to commit to today, right? This is that recommitment. I show up again. I show up again. I commit again. So often we have to commit over and over and over. It's a choice. It's a choice. And to bring that into our awareness is so powerful. Back to that like mindset piece, the internal aspect of the container. We get to do this. What am I choosing for myself today? If I didn't show up in alignment with my intentions yesterday, what needs to change so that I can do that today? How do I overcome any of those obstacles? What wins have I had that I can give myself credit for? Right? Stoking the fire within. Where can we give ourselves credit? Where can we give space for some acknowledgement, for some recognition, for some like, hell yeah, you're showing up to this, you're thinking of this, you're doing this. Even that is a really powerful thing. Every lean in the direction of our desire, of where we want to go, of what we're being called to, is significant, even if it's the like just the lean. What challenges do I need to like maintain careful boundaries around? Are there any challenges here that I might need to redirect from, or that I need to give myself care for? What do I need to visualize or feel into today to support my desired direction? So we went together into the future, and we felt what was available there, right? Those visualization practices, getting into that felt sense energy, so powerful. This is what gives us the information of how we can align that internal GPS. Is there anything about my intention that I would like to state with further clarity or redefine? Right? Again, this could be a no, good to go. Or maybe there's something that we're a little more clear on. Maybe there's something we want to tweak a little bit here. It's just that checking in. This is that flexibility. It doesn't always have to be so rigid. And then last but not least, after reviewing the details of my day, right? So this is hypothetically in the morning, like what's coming up? What do I have to do? How do I choose to show up for today? This could be one word. I choose to show up confident. I choose to show up hopeful. I choose to show up aligned. I choose to show up as my best self. I choose to show, whatever that is. And so I invite you, to consider, as we talk about stoking the fire within, to bring in these three pieces. What is the intention? Anchoring into the why, considering the container. How are we supporting this? How are we holding this? How are we viewing this? And these, this routine reflection, in a sense, it's all one and the same, right? So this helps to hold the container and hold the intention. And so if I can navigate here. Okay, I just lost my stop share button somewhere. Okay, it jumped. All right, so So we're just going to take a moment here, and I am going to, so we're going to shift gears. I want to check in and see if there's anything here that anybody wants to share or any questions. I'm going to stop the recording before we do that, just so that you have the privacy of the space, and only, really sharing with who's here tonight. And then we're going to move into the energy activation. So let me just stop the recording.